Hi, everyone, and welcome to BookTrib's 15 Minutes with, a Merrill Media production. Today, we are thrilled to welcome New York Times, USA Today, Digital Book World, and IndieReader best-selling author Cynthia Eden. Cynthia writes romantic suspense, paranormal romance, YA paranormal, and a bunch of others. She's written more than 15 different book series, almost 100 books, and to date, 6 of those are being released in 2017 coming up this year. So she's a busy bee. Her series include Bad Things, Killer Instinct, Blood and Moonlight, Lost, Purgatory, The Battling Maguire Boys, For Harlequin Intrigue, and a bunch of others. And most recently, Cynthia released a Harlequin Intrigue standalone, I'm pretty sure, Abduction. And there's more to come this year, so we're going to chat all about that stuff. And here is Abduction, which we're super excited about. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you. So first we want to talk about Abduction. It is a Harlequin Intrigue. Again, here's the cover. And it looks like, am I right in saying that it's a standalone for Intrigue?
It's a little tricky. So Harlequin contacted me and they wanted me to write my Killer Instinct series. Okay. And that's a series that I'm writing for HQN.
Okay.
But I'd also been writing intrigues, and so they wanted me to do some tie-in books for the series.
Okay.
And so while Abduction can stand on its own, it has secondary characters who would then go on to the full HQN Killer Instinct series.
Got it.
So it's set in the same world.
Okay.
It's set in the same world, but not necessarily part of the series.
Okay, got it. So who are we meeting then in Abduction? Have we seen them before? And what's the basis of the story?
So Abduction is a story that I actually had so much fun writing. I love that book. It introduces you to, thank you. It introduces you to FBI agent Jillian West, and her love interest is an ex-SEAL turned sheriff named Hayden.
Okay.
And the thing about Jillian is she works for a division in the FBI that I found out about last year. It's called the CARD team. It stands for Child Active Rapid Deployment. And anytime that a child is abducted, these specific FBI team members spring into action. And so when I heard about them, I was absolutely fascinated, and I knew I had to write a book about them. So that is where Jillian came from. Okay. Now, other FBI agents who are in the book as secondary characters will then turn up in After the Dark. That's the HQN title that'll be coming out soon.
Got it. And After the Dark, we have that too.
Yes!
So we're going to talk about that definitely in a few minutes. So as I mentioned, you have written, and as you just mentioned, quite a bit for Harlequin Intrigue. You also have the Shadow Agent series and the Battling Maguire Boys series. Each are pretty decently long, 6 and 8 books respectively. What is it for you about Harlequin Intrigue? It keeps you coming back, coming up with fresh stories. What do you love writing about for them?
My favorite thing about Harlequin Intrigue is the fact that, to me, a Harlequin Intrigue book is exactly 50% romance and 50% suspense. Okay. So you get a perfect blend of those together when you read a Harlequin Intrigue. And the fact that it's a smaller word count, typically it can't go over 55,000 words, means that I can't have any wasted space. I need to get really tight into the story, and that helps me with my writing because it helps me with development and pacing, because I know I need to deliver a full story to readers in this set amount of words. And so it helps me to sharpen my skills, and then at the same time it lets me combine romance and suspense, my 2 favorite things. So that's why I love those books.
So the third in the series, Before the Dawn, is releasing in July, right?
Yes.
But that's the Killer Instinct series?
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the Killer Instinct series and After the Dark. Can you talk a little bit about that story? And then we'll talk about Before the Dawn also.
Yes. So the idea for the Killer Instinct series is that all of the main characters in there, the hero and the heroines, they'll all have very personal connections to serial killers.
Okay.
And sometimes those serial killers will be family members. Sometimes it'll be a former lover. Sometimes it'll be a friend. And so I wanted to see, because we often, when you hear about something terrible and someone's a killer, the first thing you hear people say is, oh, I never expected it. The person was so nice. This just isn't what I would think. And in those types of situations, I always wonder, what do the people closest to the killers actually feel like when they find out that they've been completely misled?
Yeah.
Like, what is it like for those people? And so that's where the Killer Instinct series basically developed from. In After the Dark, Samantha Dark is the heroine for that book.
Okay.
And she is an FBI agent, and one of her specialties is profiling. But when she's hunting for a killer, unfortunately, she discovers that the serial killer that she's looking for is actually her ex-lover. And when you're an FBI agent and it turns out that you were wrong about a profile like that, she basically has to run away in disgrace and start to rebuild her life again. Okay. And that's the book. It's Samantha's struggle, because it's very hard if you can't trust yourself and you can't trust other people. And she teams up with her former partner, and they go on the hunt. And this time she's determined to catch the killer who got away. So it's sort of her chance to vindicate herself. So she really enjoys that.
All right. And then how about Before the Dawn, which, by the way, is releasing in July, everyone. Yes! So keep an eye out for that.
Thank you. Before the Dawn, that one it's a really dark book. All of them are dark, but they have a lot of romance in them as well. Okay. So they're not straight suspense, they're romantic suspense. So it just, as I'm talking about serial killers, I don't want people to be like, oh, is there no romance? Because I always have to have romance in my books. Okay. If I didn't have that, I would be completely unhappy. But in the second book that's releasing, Before the Dawn, the hero, again, is an FBI agent, because they form a special unit, if you will, in the FBI, where the agents all, what other people would view as weaknesses, them having these connections to killers, they view as strengths, because it's sort of taught them how to think like the killers.
Okay.
And then Before the Dawn, the hero's brother was actually a serial killer. And many people wondered if that was something that was in the family, if he was going to turn out to be like his brother. And so he's had to fight the stigma all of his life that maybe he has a darkness inside of him that's going to come out.
Right.
And in that book, it's his chance to prove that he can be more, basically, than the bad guy that people have always thought he would turn out to be.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. What an interesting topic, and probably something I would imagine that hasn't really been done before.
Oh, I had so much fun with these books. It
Now,
was really interesting to explore the different ideas about them.
Absolutely. So you write in a number of different genres. I mentioned a couple of them before. Do you have a favorite of yours that you just really, enjoy being in the world of?
It's tricky. I don't think that I do.
Okay.
I write paranormals and romantic suspense. Those are the two that are pretty much my core. And the reason why I go back and forth between paranormals and romantic suspense is because I feel like it keeps my stories fresh. If I'm only writing romantic suspense, then I feel like my mind sort of just gets in a glut, and I want to make sure that I'm delivering fresh ideas to readers. And so I try to alternate when I'm writing and write romantic suspense and then a paranormal, because it takes me out of one world and into another, so that I feel like I can focus better on the characters and just deliver a completely different experience to the readers. And it helps me. It stops me from ever getting burnout, because I feel like I'm switching, and it's new and it's different for me. So it's really good.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna pause for a moment. We're gonna edit this out. I'm gonna have you scooch a little to your right. There we go, because you left the frame a little. I'm like, if she goes anymore, she's out of frame. All right, so yes, that's perfect. Okay, so tell me a little bit your writing style. Throughout each book, do you find that you have a little different style depending on the genre, or do you approach each book the same way? How do you work?
It honestly depends on the book itself. Sometimes I'll start with an idea, and The romantic suspense books tend to be a lot more research-oriented, very heavily research-oriented. And so I'll spend a lot of the time doing the research before I start on that. And so some of those books will require that I do long outlines beforehand because, I have to make sure that I'm planning the evidence for the killers in such a way that the readers will follow along and it will all make sense. And so often those have to be, carefully outlined. But at the same time, sometimes a story idea will just hit really strongly, and all I will want to do is just sit and write and write. And when that happens, and it's an awesome experience that I wish would happen more frequently, then I just sit and I write and I just see where the book takes me. I don't stop. I just keep going.
Okay,
So
that's really
sort of
interesting.
Depends. Yeah.
Have you ever I guess I should say this, are there other genres out there that you've always thought of trying but just haven't had the chance to, or maybe would like to one day but you're not ready yet?
That is a really good question. I tend to read in all genres,
okay.
But I used to be a history teacher, and I've never written a historical romance.
Oh, interesting.
I know. So I don't know why, because I love history, and I read historical novels all the time. I just finished reading one by my friend Manda Collins. So I think if I were going to write another, it would have to be historical. I used to love Julie Garwood. I would read her constantly. So I've got a huge love for that genre. So it would be that one.
Okay, I love that. So you also have 2 new books coming out this year in the Bad Things series. Can you talk a little bit about that series in case anyone's just coming across it for the first time? And then the 2 new books, Heart of Stone and Tempted by Fate, which, by the way, love that cover.
Oh, thank you so much.
That typeface, I love that typeface in Tempted by Fate. I love it. It's so nice.
Thank you very, very much. Oh, I'm so glad. Well, with my Bad Things series, I knew that I wanted to be able to write about a lot of different types of paranormals.
Okay.
I love vampires, I love werewolves, and I will always write about them, but I wanted to pull in some different characters.
Okay.
And so for the Bad Things, the overarching idea is that in this series, you've got paranormals that are bad. They are not good. They're not good people. They're bad paranormals. And they've done bad things in their lives. But of course, redemption is a huge idea. And that under the right circumstances, anybody can be redeemed.
Absolutely.
And so in the Bad Things books, like the Heart of Stone, which is coming out next, it features a muse, sort of like from Greek mythology. Mm-hmm. And she, on the surface, you would think that she's good. But unfortunately, her power has never worked quite the way that it should. And so when she's around people, she inspires them the wrong way. Okay. And she can inspire men straight to madness. And, she hates that she does that, and she can't help it. And so her hero is a gargoyle. And he was cursed a long time ago. And the idea is because he's made of stone, her powers don't work on him. So he's the first person she's encountered that she can be completely safe with. And she doesn't always have to watch everything that she says or does for fear of a bad reaction.
Right.
So the Bad Things, they've had lots of different paranormals in there, and readers have been super supportive about the series, and I've had a blast writing and trying new things with that.
Okay. So as we talk about all these different series that you have, and of course, with each series comes a ton of new characters, how do you organize that all as the author? How do you keep it straight? Blue eyes, brown eyes, tall, short. How do you keep those characters and their traits, straight for your next novel to go back to? Do you have a system or?
I think that is probably the best question ever. And that is really tricky. And I think it's something that a lot of people probably don't think about. Yeah. But like if you're on book 5 and you're trying to remember what happened to a certain character in book 1, it is really tricky. So I have a very old-fashioned system that I use. There are many more authors who are way more high-tech than I am. But I literally, on my desk right now, I have about 5 old spiral notebooks. Okay. And I go in, and after I've written a story, I'll go in and each character gets a page.
Oh.
And so I write down hair color, eye color, a traumatic event, so that I can know, what happened, because I can't have a character who's all super happy in book 3, but in book 1, he lost his whole family.
Yes.
So you have to make sure that all of the things like that continue along.
Absolutely.
And I know some authors have great like Excel spreadsheets and stuff that they use, and I would like to be those authors. I really would. So that's a goal for me, to get better organized and maybe to move away from my notebooks. But right now, I'm very old-fashioned, and I have little notebooks at my side. Each notebook has a different series on the top of it. One's bad things, one's killer instinct. Okay. And then that way, if I need to pull them out, I can just grab it and go that way.
Oh, smart. Okay. All right. So before we wrap up, because unfortunately we are coming to the end, tell us a little bit about what else is coming for you in 2017. I know you have a bunch more books that we didn't get to that are on their way.
Oh, well, let's see. I do have, I'm trying to think right now. I know at the end of May, I have the last book in my Lost series.
Okay.
Lost stands for Last Option Search Team.
Oh.
And that's a romantic suspense series with Avon. And for that book, for all of the Lost books, there are a series of, they're not professional, they're not with the FBI or anything like that.
Okay.
They are basically civilians who've gotten together, and they search for the people who are missing, that everybody else has given up hope of ever finding. Well, that's where the Lost team steps in. Okay. And so the very last book in that series will be out. And actually, I think Avon is running a sale on Taken, which was the 5th book that was released right now.
Okay.
So that's why Lost is in my head. But so that's it. And so it's nice that I'm wrapping up one series, right, and then a new one is coming with Killer Instinct. So I always like to have closure for the readers, because I don't want people to feel like they're at loose ends,
right,
with stories, because people get angry if you leave them with loose ends. Yes. I know I do if I'm reading a book and I want to know what happens to everybody.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's good to have closure there and let readers know what's happening.
Very nice. All right. Well, again, for everyone, Abduction is out now. After the Dark is coming out the end of March, correct?
Yes, you are absolutely.
The end of March for After the Dark. And we're so excited about everything to come in 2017 for you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you talking with me today. It has been so much fun.
Absolutely. It's been a blast. And hopefully we get to do it maybe again at the end of the year or something. We look forward to it.
Well, thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you.